we go. Pop this up. So that is one of the things that we're going to be talking about today, is how to deal with things, but you'll start to see. All right, so charcoal. A charcoal, it's not a charcoal pencil. That's not what I want. This is not going to help you in the charcoal exercises. Not this. We don't want this. We want something that looks like, and here I'll get these prints as well. Where are you, newsprint? Here. This is like newsprint. It looks, don't mind that. Somebody got into my newsprint. I don't know who it is. This is sort of a classic example. If you look at the difference between a newsprint piece of paper and like say printer paper, it's a pretty significant difference. This feels a little bit like, guess what? An old-fashioned newspaper. It's what they use, that sort of soft kind of gray paper that they print newspapers on. So newsprint is something that you're going to want because it behaves differently than this paper, this other paper. And when I say soft charcoal, I mean these burnt out sticks. So this is basically a tree, a piece of a tree that's been burnt, and was one of the earliest things that we drew with. And you can see when you make marks, right? It makes big, soft marks. What's nice about charcoal is that it, you can kind of moosh it around a little bit. So even if I do a strong line like that, and I don't like where the line is, I can kind of get rid of it. I can kind of moosh it around and get rid of it. This soft charcoal is very different from something called compressed charcoal. So compressed charcoal makes marks that I can't get rid of. So this is not what we want. What we want is this. See the difference? You'll be able to see the difference. This is compressed charcoal. It's too hard. It's too dark. We can use it, but at the very, very end when we know where things are. What we want is something soft and malleable like this, right? That you can kind of erase with your finger. It's messy, I'm warning you. But it's absolutely fantastic in terms of learning how to draw. And I mean, I can show you, let's see. Yeah, here's like a piece of paper. You can see the difference. It doesn't really, you could use this on, so that's compressed charcoal. We don't want to use that. Here's our, I mean, it functions okay on like regular drawing paper, but really, ideally, this newsprint, it just kind of sinks in and absorbs and leaves a really wonderful texture. So next week, we're going to be starting with, I will be starting with, of course, you are welcome to use whatever you want, right? You can use a pencil and paper, you can do a grid, but I am going to be starting with this newsprint and the soft charcoal. You can get vine, you can get willow. So vine is grapevine, is dried up grapevine, it's burnt grapevine. Willow is willow tree bark, is willow trunk wood that has been burnt. I have a student up here in Portland who lives on a farm, and she literally has a wood pile that she pulls, like to do her charcoals. She has a wood pile that she just pulls burnt wood out of. Really, it could be anything. My favorite brand is this brand called, oh yeah, you can't really see it, called Bob's Redwood, or Bob's Fine Vine Charcoal. And that he uses like Pacific Northwest wood burned. So it's all these different colors and all these different pieces. Here. There we go. So that's what we'll be doing next week. So what we're working on this week, we're going to do it in pencil, but we're going to try something similar where parts of the area are quite dark and parts are light. You're going to learn a new way that's different than the pencil for drawing things. So that's just prepping you for next week. In the meantime, we're going to grid this. Yes.
Yeah, so I have a quick question. You know how in composition, you're not supposed to put things right in the middle. But if you're doing a portrait, it's okay to do that, right?
I mean, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I never put my portraits in the middle myself. Okay, so I am going to be, as usual, drawing a grid. Let's start with a grid. For those of you who know how to draw a grid, you can just get going. For those of you who are new, follow me. So on your blank sheet of paper here, you guys are going to be using a pencil and your ruler the same way I'm using a marker and a ruler on the source. So I'm coming here. This should be, as usual, this should be an 8.5 by 11 inch or maybe a 9 by 12 inch sheet of paper. You don't want to work bigger than that. If you've got a bigger piece of paper, take your ruler and measure out 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12 inches. If you're using centimeters, that's 28 by 21.5 centimeters. And then the first thing I'm going to do, actually, because this is horizontal, I'm going to use centimeters, because this is a 28 centimeter. You'll see I can go in between inches and centimeters pretty easily. So this is 28 centimeters across. If I line up my paper, not from the white part, but from the very edge of the paper, not from the white border. So I would like to line up my centimeter line here, right at the edge. And I'm gonna mark halfway between 28, which is, which is 14. Yeah, no, I know what it is. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it on my paper. I'm like, where is my 14? Which is much easier than finding the halfway point of inches. That's often true. And then I'm going to mark it on the top as well. So when I come here and line up these rulers like this, we're doing that, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing on the short side. Now on the short side, I'm switching over to inches because finding the halfway point of 21.5 centimeters feels like too much work to me. So on half of a on half of a 8.5 inch piece of paper side, it's 4.25. So you see, I can kind of go back and forth between inches and centimeters, however I want to, just whatever works. It's not about the number so much as it is about being able to sort of manipulate that number quickly with math. All right, and then I'm doing that on this side. And then I'm going to divide each half in half. So half of 14 is 7. Where's my 7? There we go. Right? So I'm marking my halfway points, carefully lining up my ruler. A big rookie mistake is to not be careful with lining up your ruler. I've been surprised at how many people, like when I teach this class at the beginning, when they're first doing this, like show me these totally wonky grids where nothing is the same. And it's because, you know, it's just clearly it's a ruler error, right? Like not being careful with your ruler. By the way, it's really nice to be with the three of you today. I like it. I love the big classes. I like being able to reach it, but this summer I kind of enjoy because we can hone in more and it feels a little bit more personal. And quite frankly, you guys get rewarded for, you know, you get more individual attention for showing up because you're good students.
As opposed to the other ones.
As opposed, yes, the bad students, the other kind. I'm just kidding. Everybody goes on vacation. So let's see, we've got half of 4.25 is actually 2.2. Dumb inch measure. You can already see how dumb inches are by that measurement. It's a little bit silly, but I'm doing it. 2.2. Notice I'm just being careful to line up my ruler correctly. All right, so you should have a grid. Give me a second and I'll catch up with my blank sheet of paper with you, but I will catch up with that while I show you guys the first things you're gonna draw. So as usual, we're gonna start with a simple shape. notice that I am not drawing even around most of the berry shapes. Notice I'm thinking about this subject as a whole. So notice I'm not trying to get this right away. If I do, I'm going to exaggerate it. I'm going to make it too big. So I want to know this envelope of shape. This is the sort of simplest envelope of shape that I can make. So if you are ready to do it with your grid, go ahead and sketch in this simplified bigger shape. And I will quickly use my pencil. Oh, and I'll send it across the thread as well. And Sandra, of course, send out whatever you're working on. You'll see in the thread my two favorite books. There we go. You'll see in the chat of this Zoom my two favorite books on drawing. Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards and Drawing with Children. And I sent those over because Jackie's going to try and do some drawing with her kids, and her kid, I should say. And I would highly recommend that if you're wanting to practice drawing, it might be a fun way to do this with your children too, or just do it yourself. Actually, I don't have children. I found Drawing with Children to be one of the most helpful books I've ever read and practiced when it comes to drawing. More of my teaching fundamentals come from that book and Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain than any others. It's pretty amazing. People who can explain the visual process and the logic of visual, I have deep respect for, and Betty Edwards is phenomenal. And the concept of Drawing with Children is brilliant because it presumes that you, the parent, excuse me, you, the parent, do not have drawing skills either. So it's showing you how to draw while you are working with your kids on drawing. Excuse me. A lot of what there's a couple of things that happen when you sit with your kids, if you've got them, or your nephews, or your excuse me, or your nieces, or whatever. There's a lot that happens when you sit with your kids and start to draw, or children that you know. It's a really remarkable process because as you start to teach, you learn more deeply because you have to, right, grasp what's going on to be able to understand and describe it to somebody else. So drawing with children starts to give you the language and the exercises to be able to do that. And that I always think is just really helpful. It's all about starting, right? I'm going to move this a little bit over to the side here. Can you see that? There we go. Let's move over here. Ah, okay, let's see if I can quite work. I'm going to do a little bit of rejiggering here. You can see I put like a little notepad up here so that I can stick my horizontal drawings out off the table and still be able to get them flat. There we go. So now I have to get my board high enough to get there. Okay, so I will catch up with where you all are, hopefully. Notice that I actually spend a bit of time kind of trying to determine where this line hits the grid, almost like a connect the dots. Which is super helpful. So I'll take a look, once I get this done, I'll take a look at what you have done. And talk about like composition, that question that Sandra was just asking. Notice how this bowl is placed kind of a little bit to the right. And so in general, she brings up a good point about composition, which is that most of the time we don't want to center things. Can work. That's right. Yep.
Good. For animals, I like these square portraits that look like passport photos.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that could be
It's so weird, right?
it's an intentional decision, right?
Yes.
Right? Like we make an intentional decision. When you're doing it, I like that idea. If you're gonna do it, you're like, okay, I'm doing it because I like the sort of humor of what this means is happening. Yeah. So what I like about this process is it brings, I'm not just thinking about the bowl. I'm thinking about what's kind of hiding the bowl. That light needs to come down more. Just a little bit more.
Mr. Babbitt.
So we like to think about things as separate subjects, right? But really, noticing that this blueberry in the front needs to come out a little bit farther. It's bigger than I think it is. And I can tell that because when I, let's see, 1, 2, 3, yep. It's good to think about things not just as what they are, but how they interact with each other. That is proper right brain logic, right? It's logical. It's just like, for those of you who did not catch the lesson on Thursday, we spent a lot of time working on just how light hits an object. And it's completely logical, and no one ever does it, right? If you're not trained to do it, no one ever is able to do it. You really have to be taught it, and it's a logic you have to learn. It basically means, and by the way, where's the light hitting? Where is the light coming from?
Left.
Yeah, the top left, right? And what's the logic that's so obvious? How do we know that? Because the lightest area is the area that's closest to the light. And the darkest areas are the areas that are turned away from the light, that are farther away. That is logic, right? That's like pure full-on logic. And that looks pretty good to me. Yep. I also am looking at things like, this is, I know this sounds really crazy, but using the grid, I'm looking at things like this. It's very common for in your mind to want to center this blueberry thing here, but that's not exactly what's happening. If I'm using the negative space logic, I can see that this little triangle is smaller than this triangle, right? So your left brain, which is not logical when it comes to dealing with problems like this, is going to try and center this. Really illogical, because that's not what's happening. By the way, you'll notice I'm using the word illogical a lot, and logical, because I want you to expand your idea of logic and what it is. This is a visual spatial logic problem. So this, I was just looking at my triangle here to make sure that this one is a little bit smaller This one's a little bit longer to make sure I have things in the right space. Sounds anal? Yes, but that's what the visual is all about. So here's mine. I'd love to see yours. So when we talk about learning a new logic, I'm not just saying, oh, it's not really logic. There's an actual proper logic to this. And what we need to do is show people how to find it, right? How to understand. It's a new logic language. It's like learning another, it's like learning a different language, which I've never successfully managed to do, except for the language of drawing.
You mean you didn't pick up Mongolian?
I did not pick up Mongolian. I tried so hard. But you know, the biggest problem is if you're an English speaker, that is like the lingua franca. That's what everybody wants to speak. So if you're lazy at all, like I am, mentally lazy, I just found people who wanted to practice English, and
I was teasing you. It must be an impossibly hard language.
it's you know, it's a kind of neat language, but yeah. And I even tried to study it, but it was just, for me, it was hard. I just found it really hard. And I guess I was afraid. I think you have to be willing to try and fail. You know what I mean? Like you have to be,
You have to be willing for people to laugh at you.
Right. As you know well, Sandra, right? Because you know languages. Not that people are laughing at you, but you've had to learn languages, right?
I did.
You know it. I have a lot of envy for you. I feel like, oh, I wish I had that discipline. I wish I had that discipline to do it. I'm still kind of adjusting my shape down here. And you can continue. It's a little bit flat and then it kind of curves up. It comes out more. And then it kind of goes up at an angle. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So this kind of subject is very well handled in charcoal and also ink, you guys will see. So go ahead and send me when you've got your pieces up to here. Go ahead and send them to me. I will, in the meantime, draw in the next set of. For a second, let me draw in the next set of shapes.
But it's gorgeous here today. It's only like 74 right now.
Oh, congratulations.
After a month of really hot weather.
I'm going to photograph this too so you guys can see it. So as we're starting to construct this, we're taking it apart and looking at, oh, I can already see it. Not right. Part of my problem is I have to sketch from the side so that there's room for the, so I'm constantly sort of adjusting these lines as I'm able to look at this in different. I'm spending a lot of time with the shape of this bowl is what I'm trying to tell you. So you will want to also. And then the red lines, of course, are the next set of shapes you're going to want to work on. I heard, do you have any scrub jays, Sandra? I guess you guys don't over there, do you?
What's scrub jay? Oh, it's a bird?
Bird. It's sort of like a blue jay, but it's got more white on it, and it's got the, it sounds like a catbird. It's like super obnoxious.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
I
don't know much about birds. I mean, I knew nothing until I came to Washington, but there's so many.
Started seeing who was there. I think it's a West Coast bird, and in fact, I think it's a California bird that started moving its way up. You know, as my friend Jenny says, they're the prettiest little harbingers of the apocalypse. Be up here, but they're all over the place up here, and they're really loud. They're kind of fun.
My chappie's not here today.
I noticed it's quite quiet.
The mouse visited overnight.
Oh.
My turtle is also eating the offerings.
Wait, I didn't know you had a turtle.
I have two turtles, Zephyr and Alizé. They're named after winds.
Why is this the first I'm hearing of this?
They're very
You have turtles.
and they have a little house where they hibernate in the winter.
The poor turtles, they get none of the attention. It's all about the pets.
Actually, I tried to feed them a long time ago. I heard they like mushrooms and strawberries, and I gave them that. They were not interested.
Really? What do they like to eat?
But I saw one of them was interested in cherries yesterday.
Yeah, the sugar bombs. Absolutely.
Maybe watermelon. But usually they just feed themselves. They're very smart.
All right. So Jackie and Nina, if you can send this over when you've got the outer shape. You can get started on the inner shapes if you want to. Notice that these berries are not round. A lot of them are kind of squared off or have flat surfaces and then kind of rounded edges. This could be a little bit bigger. It's a little bit, you've got it a little bit too. So yours looks a little bit like this, Jackie.
Yep.
See that? So good. Good, good. And also, this is kind of flat down here. And
okay.
This edge is interesting because it looks rounded, but there's actually like 5 different plane changes happening. It's like, if I can show it. It's like there's this. Here, I'm gonna have to draw it and then put it back. I can't do it over there. This, 4 plane changes anyway. Plane changes meaning instead of being a straight curved line, see what's happening here? Here, oh, let me take a picture of it so you can see it up close. So you're tilting up a little bit.
Yeah. Just going back to the top though, I should move that line down. Is that I'm too high?
Yeah, it's up too high.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have astigmatism. It makes angles really hard.
I do too.
Yeah. So good to know about that. Good to know that, right? Whatever. Janet also has some weird thing. Roberts has some weird thing happening with her eyes. I can't remember what it is that kind of messes with her. So you can correct for it if you know it.
Yeah.
So look at this. Down here, there's like this, and then this, and then this is a shift kind of slightly up, and then this actually up kind of like that, and then it's like this. So this is straight. As you start to deal with these issues, because you're dealing with it in relation to how these berries are, you know, coming along, right? So you're dealing with it, this berry in particular. I just need another one here. The way I have my setup currently, you guys can see, but it's hard for me. I'm like kind of stretched across one edge, but I have to kind of lean in this way to do my drawing. So I've actually got a second printout that I can look at. It's easier for me to see. So this berry, we're looking at the shape, the space between this berry. We're not just paying attention to this berry, and this berry. We're also looking at the shape, the negative space between the berries, right? We're looking at the berry in relation to the bowl. And you'll be surprised at how kind of bigger, much bigger these berries are than you think these particular berries. All right, and then there's this shape. And then there's this berry. This one should be the biggest of all because it's the closest. It's much bigger than we think it is. Not quite as big as I've made it. So you see how I'm starting to adjust this back? But you'll be surprised at how big these berries seem. And that's because they're closer to us, right? Rather than farther away. So you see how our conception, so when we're sketching things out and we're getting these outlines in, we're kind of doing two things. We're thinking about each shape that we're drawing, but we're also paying close attention to how those shapes relate to the other shapes. Show you a sketch of, and this is a kind of constant thing we have to be careful of. I'm going to show you a sketch that Janet sent to our group on Thursday, right? This is a sketch she did from and if you look at it, it's quite a wonderful, drawing of a cello. And I immediately looked at it and went, wait a minute, there's something wrong with the figure. She was like, no, I measured it all against the cello. And I said, is the cello correct? And she realized the cello was wrong, right? If the cello is the wrong shape, when you measure your other shapes against it, it won't work. That won't work. And, but the cello looks so beautiful, but I was like, no, that's not, you can't, you've got to make sure things are kind of in relation. And that's why I like this outside shape first, because it kind of shows things in relation to each other. Where are they? So you're not just thinking about what a thing is, you're thinking about the relationship of it to the other things around it. So this kind of comes. Giving myself these dots again. Notice as well, this is straight, just like down here, and then the side is slightly curved, not much, like a little tiny Cheshire cat smile, slightly curved up because of perspective. The next thing I'm going to be thinking about doing, right? So what do I do when I have a set of things that are similar in shape and size and have a kind of pattern to them? Our tendency is to just want to go circle, 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 right? Our tendency is to just want to draw circles like this. That's like me being, hey, B, did you remember that we start at an hour earlier now?
Yeah, I had forgotten, so I had planned something earlier today, but
all right. You can see where we're at. We're just do your grid and get started on these things, right? That's our tendency. It's the laziness, right? It's not to, but what we want to do is pay attention to the variation in shape. So I often think about clusters of berries, and that's why I have you draw this outside shape first, because if you can see here, right? If I get these shapes right, I'm able to get the inner shapes of the berries kind of more clearly. That looks pretty good. It comes over. And I can kind of use To me, that feels like this shape should be over a bit. I felt like my berry was too far this way. So I'm really looking at that shape. Ah, yes, that's where I made my mistake. Over. So what you're actually looking for are the variation in berry shapes. Oh, still over further. Oh, I see the mistake I made. All right, this berry needs to start on this side of the line, which means that that comes over. This goes straight up. So you see, I redrew this 3 times before I really felt like I got it right. You're also going to really have this, yes, that gives me the shape I want. So you see, I'm not looking at this berry to figure out the shape. I'm spending more time with the negative spaces in between. And when I had my initial berry over here, I could see that this shape was too wide. So that's what your grid can do for you. And these berries are going to be a lot bigger than you think they are. Be prepared for that mental challenge. All right, so this is the beginning. I'm looking for the variations of clusters of shapes, of outer shapes. There is a little tiny here, a little triangle here. I'm also going to get my shadows in. Notice that these lines, notice sort of the pattern of these lines. Not bad, B. Yeah, not bad. Now you can go ahead and start on the red lines. So I like to think of drawing as like a car engine, right? Like, or pulling apart and putting back together a car engine. I'm looking at it, I'm looking at how all the different components relate to each other. I think people who work on cars, wrenchers, they're called in the US, which I think is an awesome name, wrenchers. I think wrenchers are really right brain because they're constantly like looking at where does this part fit in relation to all the other parts around it, right? Each engine, each make of engine is different. It's so interesting. So now that I've found these variations, I can look at a couple of other things. You guys have pictures of this, so I'm going to pull this down for just a second. Now I can start to see and track the shapes of the individual berries. I can also see these beautiful light and dark patterns. So I'm going to highlight both of those for you as we go in. Notice how you will, if you're doing this correctly, you're going to stop thinking about these as berries at all and start thinking about them as these wonderful, magical shapes you'll become kind of obsessed with the beautiful randomness of these shapes. Here, let me send them in. I'm going to send a picture of this up close so you can really see the berries. Yeah, there you go, Jackie. Now we're starting to get, yes, now we're starting to get into it. Perfect. So this is exactly where you want to be. Hold on, Nina, I'll take a look at yours too. So here is a close-up of the berries in the bowl. And here is a close-up. You guys are going to love this. And like, if we were doing this in charcoal, we would be done by now. We'd be able to work on something else. So it's like the really interesting thing about charcoal. It makes things go much faster. Okay, so that's where you all want to be. Put this back up here. Did you all have it in WhatsApp? And let me look, Nina, I saw you. Good, Nina, good. Really good. Nina, I want to credit you. You're getting, your drawing is really vastly, your seeing, I should say, is vastly improving.
Okay, I'm seeing things. You know, it's really funny when you said you see things. I've been doing this Rodney Yee thing for 10 years, like this yoga DVD. And I realized like a month ago, it's like, oh my God, I've been doing the stretch all wrong for like 10 years.
Yep, because
right?
you can see it. Because you can see it, right?
Yeah.
So this is what's happening. What a wonderful example. This is what's happening. As you exercise your visual right brain, you have another set of analytical tools that will help you figure out what's going on in the world around you. That is a wonderful way of saying it. You are able to see what things are and not what you think they are. Isn't that amazing?
It is. And but then you think, what else am I not seeing for like my entire life?
Yes, everything we're not seeing.
God.
So start to think, and think about this. This is what really blew my mind. What you really start thinking is our left brain assessments are so judgmental. So they're judgmental. They're like ugly, pretty. I like it, I don't like it. Nice color, bad color. You start to understand that like your right brain is much less judgmental and much more sort of logical, right? It's less emotional. It's more, this is actually a fact rather than an assessment that I think I'm trying to make about a situation. So you just find that like sometimes you're right. You know, Malcolm Gladwell wrote an entire book called Blank about when we're right and when we're wrong in these instant assessments that we make. And by the way, B, the light right now on you is extraordinary. I'm gonna pop, I want you guys to see this. If we were gonna draw her, look at this, don't move. Look at that. Isn't that amazing?
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be a fantastic subject to draw right now? I'm not going to make you do that, but look at that. So like, I am not even looking at, I'm looking at you start to notice like light hitting people, right? And what is kind of a beautiful, and I don't know where you are. Are you in your living room?
There's a window right there. So that's what's
my
going
God,
on.
it's wonderful. Let your husband see you in that direction. He'll absolutely love it. So yeah, that's Nina, that's it. It blew my mind. The level to which I was missing information because I was making a decision around it based on not seeing what was happening right in front of me. So projecting, I guess, is the word, right? Jackie, to use a psychological term, like we were talking about, we project a lot of things onto what we're looking at without really understanding what it is. So to me, drawing unlocked the secret of true analytical thinking. So excited.
Yeah. No, I think because we're also rushing quite a bit, right? We're always in a rush to get things done.
Absolutely. Yes, we are. So this should be a life-changing, adding this, I like to think of the visual as an extra analytical tool that you have available to you. Good thing.
think we can open this window too. So we have- Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
And it's a more relational way of it's noticing how things relate to each other and how they affect each other. I don't know. I think that's for me the real takeaway. Now, as I'm starting to get into this drawing, I'm a little bit thinking about like each blueberry, right? But I'm more thinking about how the blueberries are in relation to each other. I'm adjusting. Adjusting kind of constantly how I'm thinking about that. Yeah, yes. I think you will find that drawing will change your life. This is why I'm kind of religious about it. I feel kind of religious about it. Like I'm like, yes, everybody should do this. This is why I'm like, Jackie, make Megan see it, because if she can see it, it's gonna make things so much easier for her in so many levels. If she can start to get it. And it will certainly make things easier for you. It'll change the way you evaluate. We all evaluate things. Anybody kind of surprised by how these berries look as you start to get into the light and dark shades? You're probably doing a lot of adjusting like I am. That's okay. You can see I've changed like many shapes. I've changed my shape many times, kind of looking at the negative space of how these berries are interacting with each other. That's totally valid. Yeah, that's what happened to me, Nina. I was like, oh my God, I've been a reporter for 10 years and I haven't been able to see anything until now. I was like, what is I doing?
It's kind of scary. Yeah. I'm not there yet. It's still hard to see things, but
it's like I know, I'm just like, oh my God, what have I been missing this whole time? And I think that's a profound question. Like, in this whole, like, everybody has to do better and be better and blah, blah, blah. That's going on right now, right? This whole, how do we be better? Blah, 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 blah. I think this is a way we can be better. This is a nice, neutral way of teaching ourselves how to evaluate things with less judgment and more accuracy. And less like emotional, just things going around our decisions, and more picking up on the cues around us. And that is really important, right? Like that's really important. A lot of people, you can see people missing cues all the time. And then you realize, oh my God, I'm one of those people. Totally missing.
yeah.
I'm missing the cue here. I'm missing the most important thing. So this is a way we can help correct ourselves, how we see things, how we react to things, how we look at things. Wow, you're getting me very philosophical this morning. But it's true. This is exactly like why we do this, because it changes the way you interact, what you imagine. It also really shows us how much we create our reality. Yeah. It shows us how much of our reality is just in our head. I'll stop now, but you got me upset. I can see that I made my bowl a little bit too low here, so I'm bringing it up. I can tell that because of the shapes that are happening down here. It's not like you're gonna get everything right in that minute,
Oh,
but you're gonna have
move it. Go away.
Yeah, there you go. Good job, guys.
You can't teach with materials. Go away. Go away.
who's bugging you? A lion?
Rabbit. A rabbit is playing with my brushes,
Oh,
biting my sponge.
oh, that's so cute and so annoying. I think what's blowing me away with this particular still life is how big these berries are. They're much bigger than I think they should be. Based on shapes. I'm having to do a lot of kind of like minute shape and shape. Right. So B, your package will be coming hopefully this week.
That's awesome.
We are going to go to charcoal next week. So next week we will go to charcoal. That will be our beginning of charcoal. I think I got these. Yeah, like this berry is just really huge. Also that this little kind of like flowery top kind of shows up in different places, a lot of different places, depending on where you're going.
You devil.
So Sandra, can you speak to your cats in French or English?
So in both. I tend to tell them off in French because I was told off in French.
When you get mad.
That's awesome. Hi, Osiris. We start class an hour earlier now. Just FYI for your next lessons. We start at.
I know,
Yeah.
but you're 3 hours ahead of me and my lifestyle is very different than yours, so I just have to be late for a few minutes.
I'm in the same time zone that you're. I'm in the same time zone, but I'm saying,
You're my time zone?
I'm in Portland, Oregon. Yes, I'm in your time zone. So
Oh, okay.
I'm in the West Coast. So
Oh, okay. Well, my lifestyle is different than yours.
yeah, I get up way early. I'm okay with
I get up early too, but the early you get up is I have to do Buddhist prayers in the morning. I know most people don't pray, but I do. So when I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, I get up at 5:45 every morning. Our prayers go to 7:30 in the morning. So I've already been up, done my prayers and trying to get online, do my dog and all the other stuff. So that's my lifestyle.
This is not an accusation. It's just people are getting the information out. So
yeah,
you know.
I mean, I'm trying to be as close to time as I can, but sometimes I just can't do it.
No worries, no requirements. I'm just wanting you to know that it's changed and
same time as a priest.
Same time as a priest, exactly.
That's what time they get up in the morning. In Japan, they get up at 3 and they do it at 2:30 in the morning. It's called 2. They call it Ushitora Ganyo because it's a certain time of the morning that you do your prayers. So, Hour of the Ox and the Tiger.
Yeah, I like the early morning.
Yeah, it's good. It does do your rhythm of the day is very different when you get up early.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Pass out by I'm just totally useless. 6
You go like,
I'm completely useless. I can't do anything.
oh, I wish I was like that, but I'm nocturnal. So I come alive at night. The day is hard for me.
So you don't get to sleep much.
I sleep about 3 hours.
Oh my God. So notice as I'm starting to get, anybody starting to dig the shapes of these berries, starting to see the variations,
Hey,
allow us to see.
Leah,
Mhm.
I probably missed your instruction, but you're starting with the graph around the vase and the bowl and the grapes, right? That's what I did. Yeah. Okay, good. I just all I need to know.
Yep.
Okay.
Not
Thank
great.
The orange is second, and then this, not to be confusing, but this third step is the inner, the blue. So it goes blue outer, red, and then
Inner,
inner.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, absolutely.
I got it.
Also, we're trying to get like, one of the reasons for this time change is to get more India participation.
Mm.
Folks in India, because it's 8:30 there.
It's 8:30 in the morning there?
No, evening,
I guess Europe at night.
evening.
Oh,
It's 8:30 in the evening in India. And if we go
oh, yeah.
later, then we won't get them. But also because in the fall, I'm going to start doing a lot of shows on Saturdays. And most of the shows start at like 10 or 11. So I can continue to teach
Oh.
on Saturdays if I just go a little bit early.
I interviewed a guy on my show, Leah, that's he's a famous drawer. That's
Yeah.
what he does for a living.
Who is
Yeah, his
it?
name is Clarence Pencilman Pointer. He's one of our only African-American famous drawers, but that's what he's known for. And he's like amazing. Like, unbelievable. It looks like a painting.
I think you know him. You know who else is really good, who you'd love, is a guy named Al Burtz.
Who?
He's
Who?
African-American. His name is Al Burtz. I'm gonna send it in the chat.
B-E-R-T-Z, B-E-R-T-Z, or B-U-R-T-S.
Burts. He does
Okay, got it.
extraordinary drawing. He's in Florida. I own a couple of his prints. He does these extraordinary drawings of
That's how this guy is, like, holy.
right.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna close my window. I'm sorry, you guys.
Anyway, take a look at Al Burtz's work. Osiris, I think you'll really like him.
Well, I'm gonna check him out. I already got his name. It's already in my head.
Love him, and he does these drawings. He does a lot of different drawings, but he does drawings of ballpoint, using a ballpoint pen on wood that would blow your mind.
You're mine. Oh my gosh, this this guy did Rosa Parks, and he's done a lot of celebrities and stuff. But it's like, oh my gosh, amazing. But reminded me of you when he was talking on the interview about drawing, and how he said drawing it to painting is like crawling to walking, is how he explained it. Because I'm like, okay. So,
Yeah, drawing
interesting.
important to painting, right? Like, yes, you need to learn how to draw. It's true. Here, I'm going to take a picture of the.
But
Go ahead.
my drawing never comes out in my painting. It doesn't come out. It only comes out when I'm drawing.
Hold on, I'm going to show you. I'm going to take a picture of my prints. I've got Albert's. That's an Albert's drawing.
Where is it?
I put it in WhatsApp thread.
Thank you. Sorry, everybody.
Amazing. All right. So next week we will be going to charcoal and newsprint, if you got it. You can of course stay in pencil if you want to, but I love charcoal and newsprint.
Oh man,
Isn't he wonderful? Isn't he just
it's
amazing?
another level.
I know.
It's another level. It's not even drawing anymore. Some
And
of
it's
the,
really cute. He's got a daughter who's also drawing, a daughter
oh,
in her early 20s. And you can see he's totally like supporting her. He often posts her work as well. And
oh,
he's just really good. He's really amazing and super
he's
nice.
more than good. He's like beyond another world.
You know what I mean? There's so much
Yeah.
talent out there. Like we don't even know how much
Oh,
talent is like there.
it's unbelievable.
I bet you if you wanted to interview him, he would totally be down for it. He seems like
If you put me in touch with him, I'll do, because our 15-minute show, that's what we do. We highlight notables, people of notoriety and celebrities. But people of notoriety that you've heard of, but they're not some big A-list celebrity. But if you know something about that industry or whatever, you've heard of them.
oh my God,
Art stuff.
I will put you in touch.
Put him in touch with me. I would love to talk to him and his daughter. Get her on camera too.
That'd be amazing. I will totally do that. I know
It
them.
would be adorable.
I'll do that on Facebook.
My fans and audience would love that. They love stuff like that.
Awesome. Okay, I'll put you in touch with him on Facebook because that's how I know.
Thank you.
We're,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then please tell me when that interview comes out. I'm just a big fan.
Of course, and I'll send you a link even. How about that?
That sounds amazing. I love, he's very talented. I can't afford any of his channels, but I love it. So I try to buy his prints and you know how it is. So what you guys are gonna find as you get into these berry shapes is that to kind of distinguish the berries, you're gonna have to really look at the dark and light midtones. So can you see how I just right here darkened? It looks like everything is dark, but it's not dark at the same level. So you want to look at the edges where one berry meets another and see what's the darkest, there'll be, so this is like darker down here, right? Than this piece here. So you're gonna, to maintain your highlights, as it were, you're gonna really need to pay attention to not just the dark and the light, but the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, right? On a value scale of 1 to 5, you're going to really have to pay attention to that to be able to have your berries come out. And notice also there is a pattern here. I mean, everything that's over on this side and turned away from the light, that's down, is darker than what than the light's coming from this direction. So everything that's kind of on this side and down and covered by another berry is going to be the darkest parts. So this is like super dark right here. So I'm coming back in and darkening so that I can let my shapes of my berries come out. It's like I'm sketching the berries from the inside. I'm showing the differences from the inside rather than obsessing about their outsides. Because when you start obsessing about trying to get the outsides in, you miss. Yeah, it's starting to get somewhere. Oh my God.
They look like black grapes. They're really dark.
I know, right? When you start looking at them, they totally have a different quality to them. Notice that each of the little berries on the ground has a shadow going to the right. And then as we're dealing with the bowl, instead of trying to get every piece, notice where there's a couple of things happening. Notice like that the lines, right? The pattern of the lines in the darkest areas first. So if you want to get that pattern of the bowl, instead of getting overwhelmed by trying to do everything, look at notice how in this particular case, as the bowl changes direction, these lines sort of change direction. And notice up here, we can't really see them so much. So you don't really need to get all of the lines in, right? Because we can't really see them, like beyond sort of here, a little bit down here. You can see a little bit down here. It's an interesting pattern. Notice that my texture gets a little bit lighter as I kind of move up into the part of the bowl that's lighter. I'm also going to get a kind of shading in here across. And I'm also going to get in that core shadow. So I do want to pay attention, and I don't want to mimic what I noticed. I just started to get a little bit lazy there. I stopped paying attention to what now I've got to get myself to pay more attention to what the patterns are actually doing. This bowl is actually divided into little slices like this, right? So each time there's a shift in a little section, there's kind of a shift in the pattern. So deal with things section by section. Notice as I come up here, I don't have to be so distinct. Yeah, I think I got it actually pretty well. So when you're dealing with groups of things, right, what I like to think about is where are the variations in shape, the outer shapes, how they relate to each other, and then these sort of inner lights and darks, what are they doing? And then I also see the same here. I'm like, can I segment this out into areas that I can see better, areas that I can see less, right? I need to kind of darken this down here. Like, break things up into groups. The grid also helps us with that, right? You can kind of deal with things square by square or rectangle by rectangle. So once again, to bring the analogy of the car engine back into this, I'm breaking this apart and putting it back together shape by shape using different, in different pieces, right? Using different, looking at how are these shapes related to this shape? How is this shape? How is this pile? Where are the negative spaces on the outside of the pile? And then how those lines will often bring me to, once I get these outside shapes, it's easier to find the inner shape between the lines. So I'm just dealing with things piece by piece, rather than getting overwhelmed by the pattern and then just starting to do, this or this because I'm tired, or this, right, because I'm just tired. right? That's what we do when we're tired. So the focus is on, I'm taking a little group. It's easier to think about the variations within this, to get the outer variations, then to pull it, the inner variations. So it's breaking things apart and putting them back together visually. Let me take a picture of this so you can see what I'm talking about. On the right. Yes. I'm just taking like pictures of little pieces of my drawing. Might be helpful.
Hey, Leah,
Yes.
you know what he did talk about was the type of pencils, and see how you have those shadings and all that? He
Yeah.
talked a lot about the heaviness and the weight of the pencil and the lead, which nobody would think about. I mean, most people just say it's a pencil, you know, but it was interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I talk a little bit about that. You can use, as you want to get, I like to start with an HB, the yellow pencil that kids use, because those are fairly light lines. But once you kind of know where your lights and darks are, you can totally go into the 2Bs, the 4Bs, the 6Bs. The higher the B, the darker the lead. And then if you want to go the other direction and get really fine, feathery light lines and sharper lines, you go to H's or F's for hard or fine. So the bigger, so if you've got a 2B or a 4B, it might be a good time to jump in here and add in some of those beats, some of that. But you don't want to do that till you know where things are, right? You've got everything in the right places. Yes, I'm imagining he would have a lot to say about that.
Where's my beast?
There's your beast. Let's see.
I meant the bird.
Oh, yes. We hear him.
The drawing beast is not so good. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. So evaluate for yourself what you can do in that time. What sort of, instead of trying to race through and finish everything, or and you of course can keep working on this afterwards. But look at your piece for a second. Stand back from it, step away from it, and look at it from far away and see, is there anything that you can notice as you do that you could fix? Nina, nice. Ha! I love it. Aren't you proud of yourself?
Yeah, I'm actually happy. Yeah, no, thank you. You've given great
You're proud
instructions.
of yourself? You've come far, babe. All right, so my suggestion is darken this, right? Because down here we can still see the darks and the mediums, and then the whole thing is a little bit darker, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Run your pencil over everything while continuing to maintain the darkest are these lines here. Ah, I'm proud of you.
Okay.
That's great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jackie, all right. So Jackie, I need you to do the same thing.
Nice.
Sorry, I missed it.
Darken here. See, shoot, sorry. Like, let me point out here. Yep. Wonderful. You guys should be proud of yourselves. These are great. All right, you guys. Oh my God, look at you all. Are you feeling pleased? Can anybody tell me something they learned today about while doing this drawing? Is there anything that came to you as you were working on it? Any thought about the process?
Rihanna.
Yeah.
Every time I draw music in my head or some distracting, it'll be either music, some song, or just something will come in there.
Wonderful. Yep. Did anybody find something surprising about doing this drawing? What surprised you that you didn't expect? I found these berries to be way bigger than I thought they would be.
Mhm.
I was just gonna say that I drew the berries all too small first.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So like when you see it, you realize like this berry is just huge. Actually, it's two. You can see here, I don't really even have that. But like, right, like the berries are way bigger than we think they are. That is a helpful thing. Anything what helped you to correct for that, B?
I looked for where they were on the grid
Yeah.
because I would always be like going on to my next berry and I would look, oh, there's way too much space between this berry. Yeah.
I did a lot of that too. You missed the first half where I was doing that as well. I did exactly that same thing. I was like, there's way too much space between this berry and the next berry. I know, it's fascinating, isn't it? And I kept doing it. I did it over and over and over again. Up here, really had a problem. Took me a long time to get this shape. I don't know if you can see it here, but you can see where my original shape was. If I put it up close, you can see all the erasing marks, right? For like, so it's an interesting thing. I think erasing marks are great. And I used to have a student who would be like, I thought the arm was here and it was really way over here. Look at that. Like your original marks show you process. They show you where you think things are versus where they really are. Yeah, great problem solving. That's wonderful. Oh, Cyrus, that's awesome. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Are you using charcoal?
No, I'm using my pencil.
Which pencil are you using?
Number 2.
A 2B. Yep.
HB.
HB. It's wonderful. Wonderful. You guys nailed this exercise. Everybody nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. These are
You're a really good teacher.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Sandra, he's adorable.
I need to do many more to get it right. It's more difficult.
Sure, but
Can we see it? Can we see it?
Yes.
Can you show it?
It's in the thread.
Oh my gosh. Is it a rhinoceros?
Yes.
Oh, it's It's really good.
I know Sandra wants your, you know what, but Sandra, what I really like about Sandra is what she did not say this time is what she used to say all the time. I messed it up. I botched it up. It's terrible.
I was thinking that I messed it up, but I didn't say.
Didn't say it because even though it's not perfect, notice that Osiris knew what it was. So
Exactly.
Number one, if people know what it is, you've at least partly succeeded in your job. Number two, like, just because you need to improve doesn't mean there's a certain kind of adorableness about his little face, his adorable little face. So Sandra, I appreciate that.
He looks way less scary than he does on TV.
Right.
So.
Right. I appreciate that you're giving yourself that rope, right? Because when we beat each other up, we beat ourselves up all the time for not being good enough. Jackie, keep this in mind when you work with Megan. It kind of brings you out of the zone. So it's helpful to go, okay, yep, this is just a series. So instead, Sandra said, this is just a series. I'm going to do a bunch more to get better at it, right? But it's like, you're even smiling in a way that you're not normally smiling at the end of the class. So everything's progress, right? Everything is progress. Our mistakes are progress as long as we learn something from them. In drawing, it's interesting. In drawing, you might feel that like as you're going, the thing about drawing is as you're going backwards, I'm going to remove the spotlight here and look at you guys in gallery view. As you're going backwards, it might feel forwards. It might feel like you're going backwards. There's a very famous saying in drawing, which is that you need to make 10,000. It's a classical saying that you need to make 10,000 mistakes to become a good drawer, right? Like that's what you have to do. There's no way around it. So the mistakes are part of the moving forward, even though it doesn't feel that way. So keep that in mind. Notice that in the chat of this Zoom, I listed 2 books, which I think are absolutely amazing for doing drawing practice by yourself. It's really wonderful. Drawing with Children by Mona Brooks and Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. Drawing with Children you can do on your own, or you can do it with a child in your life.
Borrow a child.
Yes, you can borrow a child. Although not animal children, this is going to have to be people with occipital thumbs and not raccoons. Let's not teach raccoons how to draw. The last thing we need is those little bastards knowing how to draw. And drawing on the right side of the brain will begin to explain to you the intellectual process, thinking process behind right brain visual spatial thinking, which was basically described by B very nicely. The way you were like, okay, I saw that when I looked at the shape of my next berry, this berry had to, right? It's all about relations. It's not about focusing on the one thing. It's about thinking about the thing in relation to other things. That's
okay. So what do you do if you're already on the right side? I read from right to, I'm already right. That's my part of that's bipolar because I'm on the right side. I'm trying to get more of the left thing.
When I say right side, what I mean specifically is looking at things in terms of shapes.
Oh, okay.
Shapes and values, right?
Okay.
It's visual spatial. In fact, we know that the brain, right and left are not even correct because any part of the brain can pick up another function. Area. Like, right, there's damage in one part. So right and left is not exactly, but when I say right brain, I mean visual spatial thinking. Visual spatial.
I got fired from a job. I got fired from a couple of jobs because I was so right brain that I couldn't function in the job.
Right.
So I didn't know at the time I had a condition, but I'm saying that I didn't know. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
I look at these things.
Too right brain. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I kept saying, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
So visual spatial is a wonderful analytical tool. The more we learn to use it, the better it's going to make your analytical skills on all sides. You'll be able to add it. Your left brain will stop fighting with it so much and you'll start integrating. The other thing that happens is as you learn a new skill, your whole brain gets involved. So once you kind of master something like learning how to talk, learning how to drive, learning how to, read and write quickly, right? Type, anything. Your brain creates shortcuts and the rest of the brain atrophies. So basically, the moment you get good at something is the moment you have to start doing something you're not good at, because that's what keeps the brain healthy. Great, right? Like essentially we never get there. It's not like you can like get to like, oh, perfect brain health. I've got everything mastered. And that's the moment that your brain starts to go downhill.
Have you seen the movie Doctor Strange?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what you're talking.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So keep that in mind as you're going forward, that like but what happens is you learn a new skill where you have to focus more intensely, right? Is that it gets all the synapses and all your brain processes firing. They call it firing together and wiring together. So that's how a stroke patient gets over, is able to learn to talk again, walk again, move again. That's how a stroke patient learns. Like you literally create a new neural pathway, and your whole brain is like working to keep this going. It's one of the things they found that kind of staves off dementia a little bit longer, is this kind of intense focus.
I know, I'm there. That's what they're doing with me, because
right?
I had my frontal lobe of my brain was damaged and all of that. And that's what they told me that I would have to do. Yeah.
So you're learning new, like
yeah,
new neural pathway, and it's amazing. And
I have a brain tapping helmet and all of that.
Yeah,
that's a brain tapping helmet.
And it helps, doesn't it? It helps. And then sort of on a side note, the last thing I'll share with you today before we jump off is I have a psychiatrist who is a longtime student of mine. He's in his 70s, and sees like 30 patients a week. And his patients often come to him to really resolve issues of anxiety. So they may come 3 times a week. He had a patient that was super anxious, and for a year, he had her sit while she was waiting to see him in the waiting room. Back when we did that, he would have her do a drawing of her hand with looking at her hand and not at her paper. And if she did that drawing before her session, she was way less anxious, way more able to see what was happening around her. She was able to remove herself from that anxiety that took over her brain. And then it stopped working after it got too easy. So after about a year, you have to change the exercise. But he observed that if she did that exercise for just 5 minutes, looked at her hand and drew without looking at her paper, so she really had to focus and intensely concentrate, that helped her in her session.
Well, the VA put us in art classes in water therapy. So they do art and water therapy at the VA for people like me that have, been diagnosed and all that.
Right. So
it helps.
It helps. All right, my friends, great work today. We got to talk a little bit about more deeply what's happening in your brain as you're doing this, which I always love to do. So Nina, thank you for bringing up the observation about your yoga class. And we'll see you next week. Some of you can join tomorrow. There's 2 classes tomorrow, and then the whole schedule going on next week. So see you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.